When I graduated from the University of New Mexico in 1976, had my degrees, and I had never considered or contemplated law enforcement as a career, but I thought, I was kind of a hippie, sort of, to a degree. I had been around the military my entire life, lived on military bases. Father was a captain in the Navy, lived up and down the eastern seaboard in Rhode Island, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Naples, Italy, Hawaii. But I had been around military my entire life, and I did have a scholarship for 2 years at the University of Mexico, or ROTC, Naval, and became a Marine option for a while. But I just decided the military wasn't for me because that's what I've been around my whole life. And at some point down the line, I decided, well, I don't want the military necessarily as a career, but I also don't want civilian life as a career. But the police work was kind of an interesting blend of the two because it's sort of a paramilitary organization. And remember, we're going back to 1976. And so I graduated from the University of Mexico. I had put some applications in, and I hadn't been accepted at that time. So graduate, go out, get some odd jobs, and I'm waiting to hear. And one of the departments, or one of the entities that I had applied to, was the Oregon State Police up in Medford, Oregon. They sent a letter and they said, you have an interview at Medford High School for the Oregon State Police. And it was on such and such a date. Well, I had probably about maybe $200 to my entire name. The car that I had purchased cost me $420, had holes in the floorboard. I mean, it was just, I was dirt poor. I had all my worldly possessions went in a duffel bag, my dad's from World War II. So I go, okay, well, so I fly up there. I'm using the last of my money, stay in the cheapest hotel with, God knows, it was like a Star Wars bar, but in a hotel. And I go out to Medford, Oregon High School for the interview. And they have a PFQ and blah, interviews and so forth. I go through the PFQ, and I had been in karate. I'd won some competitions in karate throughout my years at University of Mexico. I worked out all the time, all this other stuff. And I had been a midshipman. So I think, okay, I'm kind of handle myself. I think I had a pretty good beat on life. I didn't. Anyway, we go through the entire thing, and at the very last point, what happens is, at that time, they had a table in the gymnasium set up, and I had to be interviewed by one single Medford or Oregon State policeman. And he was this little skinny guy. I don't know who he is. If I ever come across him, I'd love to talk to him. I would love to talk to him. So he had these little string bean arms. He had this little, Smokey the Bear hat on. And I had secret clearance in the military, as a midshipman. I had accomplished, certain things in my life. I'm trying just to become a Oregon State policeman. And he looks at all this background. And he looks at me and across the table, and I just sit down. I don't think I was with him for more than 2 minutes at most. And he looks at me and he said, you know what, I'm going to disqualify you. I don't think you're tough enough. I'm too young at the time to know if he's serious or if he's not, doesn't matter. But I got disqualified right then and there. And he takes his little string bean arms and sits there and goes boom, boom, in the whatever, disqualified box, boom, next. You may leave. And I went, wow, okay. So I left. And my point on this story is that just because somebody tells you you can't do something, I wouldn't buy into it, quite honestly.